Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the Primo 3. These nondescript motors are prototypes and they're not currently available, but they're 1303s. Running them on the HQ 3-inch T-style props. The board I selected to use is the Beta FPV all-in-one that features the F4 flight controller with a 12 amp ESC, Eachine Nano VTX, Runcam Racer Nano FPV camera, get the Lumineer Axi antenna. I also use the Pyrodrone mini battery strap, and a bit of the light UMA grip. And I shouldn't forget that fancy Emax fabric tape. Motor post, I'm getting about 117 millimeters. Carbon fiber is 2.5 millimeters thick. The arms are about 5 millimeters wide. The carbon is chamfered, it's nice and smooth. Also note the shaft holes don't go all the way through. There are adapters for those protruding shafts. As I have mine built, it weighs 67.69 grams. I flew it on these GNB and RDQ 3S batteries. With the GNB battery, it weighs just over 110 grams. With the RDQ battery, it weighs just under 110 grams. We're actually going to step back a little bit in time and go to some older flight footage. I have been flying this for quite a while, really since the Primo 3 really came out. Gnarly had me testing some production motors, and that's why you see the non-production motors on mine. I preferred these over what are currently being sold in the store. Gnarly has a store, GnarlyFPV.com. You should go check it out. He has way more than just the Primo. You might remember the original Primo from my video way back in the day. That came out, was that almost a year ago? It was a conversion kit that you could take your mobile parts and then put it on a Primo and fly it outside and have some fun. But this one has been through some iterations, and Gnarly and I have kind of done some things back and forth. I don't want to act as though I was all that important to the development of Gnarly's frames or products. He sent some stuff to me, I sent it, I gave him some feedback, we went from there. So in the future, if you do see these motors, you'll know that I do like these, and I like these because they controlled the prop really well, and they gave me a good efficiency. You'll note that this flight comes at over 3 minutes, which is really rare for me. Now, I could use a touch more camera angle when it comes to that TPU pod that we've got up there, but it's got pretty good camera angle. You can see there at the bottom of the FPV feed, we can barely see the prop. So that's about right for me. Maybe just a couple of more degrees. It would have been handy to go a little bit harder and faster, but not much. Maybe at most 5, but probably closer to somewhere around 3. I mentioned that we were stepping back in time. You can see the trees have leaves. You can also see that I've got leaves on the ground. This was mid to late fall, and then I had a frame breakage, and there was an evolution of the frame, and so things have changed a little bit. The frame that I see on the desk is different when I'm flying in here, but the main difference is the thickness in the carbon, which added about 1.5 grams over what I was currently flying. So you'll just have to gauge that. Because right now I just don't have any fly time, and I dropped the ball really. We had winter set in here. I got back from vacation. I had this built on the new frame, and I just kind of forgot about it. So my apologies to Gnarly for leaving this sitting on the shelf rather than getting to the review. Many of you know Gnarly, and I would really appreciate it if those of you that have been flying the Primo that could help anyone who might be new to Gnarly's frames and his web shop, and leave your experiences down there in the comment section. I know there's a great deal of channel owners and hobbyists out there. I clipped a branch right there around that tree that have experienced Gnarly's products and have shopped on his website. So I think he could really help spread the word about Gnarly, as well as help introduce people who might not be really tightly integrated into the FPV community. Just to mention a few things that Gnarly does have over in his web shop, since we have a few seconds left over here, is the Skeeter. He's got the Guppy V2 and the Skeeter Super Slim, as well as the original Primo that I did mention. He also has motors. He's got various electronics. He's also got some LEDs over there that I was tempted to use. And I think the LEDs that he has are a little bit better than, I think it's the Flywoo. The Flywoos are just so tight and close together that it makes the soldering just about impossible. But we're going to wrap up the flight. You can see we got the low voltage, and we've got 3.3 on our average voltage cell, and I need to bring that in for a flight time of just over 3 minutes. So this is one of the original designs, and it had the low antennas as you see here, and it's now changed to where it comes out the top. And I think this is better because getting your antenna down through here, I'm not sure what his intent was, but what I did was I went through the hole and then out through here. So you had your board laying here, and you went in that hole in the board and then out here, and then I used a screw on top to secure mine down. And you can see on my build, I didn't use any standoffs or anything to secure the board down. I just sat it down on top of this TPU that's right here, which I think works fine. It works great. It eliminates one extra thing to fiddle with. So that's something that you'll find on yours. Also, you see this has a little bit of a different motor pattern now, but he's eliminated that offset, that happy model offset that they had for those motors. You see that he continues to have the through holes that don't actually go all the way through, just like in the production version that is now being sold on his web shop. Secures down the TPU with these brass fittings. It seems to work very, very well. I've had troubles with these, but only when they're holding the battery and I clip or I tumble. Then there's a tendency for the battery to hook on something and it pull these brass fittings out. But my understanding of how these brass fittings work is they kind of screw together as two pieces, so you can screw them back together. This part I don't really care for. You can see it's got 16 by 16 mounting, and you can't see it on mine because I've covered it up with the UMA grip, but the production frame has this as well. But this felt I don't care for, this battery mat. This doesn't really hold our battery. It has a little bit of tack to it, but it's actually kind of smooth. So I tore that off and put some UMA grip on there. It's a nice touch because it's so neatly cut, but it's just not practical in holding our battery on. So if you have one, my advice would be to take this off and use some actual battery mat on there, because it'll secure your battery. But then again, you know, if you don't have any problems with it, there's no problems there. You can toilet tank the battery like I did on mine by running your battery strap through here, and you can see that I don't have any problems with that. But if your USB port does come through the back, it is going to limit, you know, your ability to toilet tank. So you need to choose your board wisely when you're deciding how you want to hold your battery. Otherwise, you just go around the frame traditionally to hold your battery to where it would be in there vertically. I didn't mention it, but I also flew this on the RDQ batteries as well as the GNB batteries. They're essentially the same, 3S, 320 milliamp, although the RDQ says 325. And that's what resulted in the flight footage that you see and that you are watching up in the corner. The carbon, as you see here, is a little bit thinner, and that was probably because of the breakages. I've got a broken frame laying around here somewhere. Here we go. Here are a couple of other iterations that we went through before all the changes and the evolution of what you see over here. So you see where I broke the arm. You can get a look, if you care to, at the carbon fiber here. If you study carbon fiber and those layers mean something to you, if I can get my camera to focus here on it. There we go. There's a picture of the layers in there, if that matters to you at all. But you can see how the antennas used to come out here through the back, and he no longer does that. And I think that makes it build a lot easier. Also on mine, I've got a capacitor in here that came standard with the Beta FPV board. You don't necessarily need that, but it does have the ability to possibly help clean up video if you have extra noise, especially if you see noise on throttle movements. If the noise seems to increase as you change the throttle values, then a capacitor should help you out. Also, I left the connectors on my board because I think I'm going to use this frame for motor testing. When we get to nicer weather, that will make this a good candidate, I think, in being consistent and just being able to plug motors in if they happen to come with plugs, or I can solder them on because the solder points are all available to me. This one's a little bit close here, but I think I can work that out still. So it's a very tight and compact build in here, but if you use a 16 by 16 mount, you will need to raise the top canopy a little bit with something like a nylon standoff. I would use a hollow or a straight through standoff and then use a screw all the way through. I don't suggest using a nylon standoff that has a screw end to it. I just think long term that would break. So that's one tip I can give you if you're building with a 16 by 16 and you have to raise your canopy up. I did talk about the camera angle a little bit, so you get a view of how much camera angle you do get there. Just a touch more. I'm really being picky with that, but just the tiniest bit more, you know, 3 more degrees was really all I might need. And that's just to, you know, try to make an impressively fast video. I think for the majority of people, they wouldn't necessarily want it. And the frame is really more about freestyle than it is for racing, although it is light and it is agile and it is tough and robust, and you can definitely use it for racing. I think it's kind of its look and its feel to me, with the ability to toilet tank as well as go the traditional mount, makes it a really good candidate for freestyle flight. So if you have one, leave your experiences down below, maybe a parts list. I know that if you put links in there, YouTube will slurp it off into the spam comments, so you might just put text if you want to put your parts list rather than links to all the different parts. And I am going to give these away. I'm going to keep my built one. Like I said, this is going to be my tester for motors, but I am going to give like this, because these haven't been broken, but these are different. I don't have it together. I've actually got this backwards, but so this has the antenna mount down below, but I've also got some extra parts down in here, and a canopy where you mount the antennas up top, traditionally like the production version. So I'm going to give this away, and I've got another one over here in red that's the production version. I'm going to give these two away. There won't be a results video on this. I'll just randomly pick somebody through the YouTube comments, and because it's so late in the video, I hope that I don't get that unintended attention, that you can win one of these, and I'll ship it out, and I'll pay for it if you're in the continental US. If you're international and you win it, then we'll split the cost of the shipping. So really interesting and fun frame to fly around from GnarlyFPV. Again, that's GnarlyFPV.com, and I'll have a link down in the video description to his web shop. Keep in mind, he sells a lot more than just frames. He designs frames. He has various designs. He's got props. He's got motors. He's got all the things you need for micros. He's very micro-centric. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in that section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.